On today's episode, we're going to make a politically charged confectionery that made its first appearance in a 1954 cookbook by Alice Toklas. Earliest mention of cannabis-based cooking came out of India thousands of years ago, when they used to saute the plant in ghee and then infuse it into many of their dishes. Today, my friends, is all about the classic pot brownie on I Can Teach You How to Make That. Hey folks, welcome back. Today we're going to make the most requested item, and I can teach you how to make that short history. My Nutella pot brownies. I started developing this recipe 6 years ago when a close friend became very ill and asked if there's something I could make as an alternative to smoking pot. What I found though is when using Nutella as the base of the brownie, the oil from the hazelnuts bind to the coconut oil being used to extract the cannabinoids during the cooking stage. This makes for an incredibly consistent and smooth batter, as you're about to see. First though, I'm going to do a little cover my behind. The time to make this recipe is when your kids are at the grandparents' place for the weekend and you and your significant other would like a little stare at each other time. If you've smoked marijuana before but never ingested it, one is not the other and create a very different effect. When you ingest cannabis, the liver converts it into 11-hydroxymetabolite THC, so don't plan on operating a motor vehicle anytime soon after eating these treats. I'm going to take it one step further. Don't plan on using anything with a motor at all. Okay, are you ready to get started? Let's head into our local grocery store and get our ingredients for today's dish. Well, let's start by getting the co-star of this movie, the Nutella. You'll find it in the breakfast aisle. Grab one jar. I've always been a fan. I even smear it on my pancakes. Delicious. One aisle over is the baking section. Walk yourself over and grab one small bag of the all-purpose Robin Hood flour. Nothing fancy here. It's the same one your grandma used to use. Over to your left, you'll see the pecans. Grab one small bag. You'd expect the coconut oil to be in the baking section. It's not. It's over by the salad dressing, so walk over there and find it around the canola oil and all that other vegetable spray. You'll need one container. One final stop in the dairy section, grab yourself a dozen eggs. We're only using 2 for this recipe, so grab the ones you'd normally eat for breakfast. I'd say it's about time we hit the kitchen. Here's the exact list of tools you'll need to get started. You'll need a brownie pan, a baking sheet, 2 mixing bowls, one large, one small, a stainless steel pot, a coffee grinder, a whip, a strainer, and a rubber spatula. Go ahead and grab a pen and paper. Here's your exact list of ingredients you'll need. You'll need 1 1/4 cup of warm Nutella, 1 cup all-purpose flour, 2 eggs, 1 cup organic coconut oil, 1/2 cup chopped pecans, and 1/2 ounce of high-grade marijuana. We're going to start this baking adventure by measuring, grinding, and toasting our marijuana. Start by measuring off exactly 1/2 ounce of the fine weed. If you don't have a baking scale in your kitchen, don't sweat it. I'm pretty sure the person you bought the weed from does. Just ask them for exactly 1/2 ounce. Following that, add the cannabis in stages to the coffee grinder and grind it down into small bits. Spread the herb over the entire cookie sheet. We're now going to transfer the pan into the 220-degree oven on bake. Not favorites, not broil, bake. This stage is called decarboxylating and is crucial to the brownie's success. Simply throwing raw cannabis into your food won't do anything outside of ruin your food. 220 degrees seems to be the sweet spot for converting THCA to the psychoactive THC that we're looking for. While our wheat is toasting, we're going to prepare our double boiler by taking our stainless steel pot, filling it halfway up with water. Take the smaller of your 2 stainless steel bowls, place it on top of your stainless steel pot. We're going to measure off 1 cup of the organic coconut oil and 1 cup of tap water. Place it right into the bowl on the double boiler. Walk over to your stove, set the largest burner to medium. Transfer your double boiler and its components onto your medium-large burner. Once our toasted wheat is done, we can add it to the double boiler with the water and the coconut oil as well. Mix the 3 ingredients well and keep an eye on the water boiling below. You want a nice simmer, you don't want a big aggressive boil. That being said, be sure not to run your pot dry, that's the last thing you want. Grab the stainless steel lid for this pot, throw it on top of the small mixing bowl. We're going to set our timers for 2 hours, but check back occasionally to make sure we didn't run dry and to give it an occasional stir. Give your cannabis oil a good hour to cool down before you start to handle it. I found the best technique to get all the cannabis oil out of the weed is to squeeze it through 2 layers of cheesecloth, and in order to do that, I prefer it doesn't burn the heck out of my hands. Really take your time on this stage and be diligent. You want to get as much of that oil out of there as possible. The inside should almost be dry when you're done. Really squeeze the heck out of it. Transfer the mixing bowl and the warm liquid into the fridge. Leave it there for at least an hour. I prefer to have it there overnight.
Hey folks, before we get back to the show, just a quick note that I Can Teach You How to Make That is now accepting corporate sponsorship. If your business is still wasting cash on ridiculous marketing vehicles like bus benches, LED road signs, or radio ads, knock it off. And while I'm at it, no one watches TV anymore either, except for maybe sports, and I'm pretty sure we can't afford to advertise on the Super Bowl. If you're old school and you can't wrap your mind around what online social media marketing looks like, I'll be I Love Lucy and you'll be Tide laundry detergent. People watch us and then we send them to you. By being a corporate sponsor of I Can Teach You How to Make That, it means we can specifically target your key demographic and focus new customers on making genuine buying decisions. Do you own a real estate brokerage? If you're already a sponsor of the show, we could have sold that one property in your portfolio that's been a pain in your butt all year long. If you own a car dealership that's still placing print ads in the Sun newspapers, well, I can't even look at you right now. We can provide live brand representation as well. I'm the king of trade shows and I would love to pump your company's tires. You may not be able to afford Gordon Ramsay, but I bet you can afford David Husserow. I'm easy to reach. Send me a private message below or go to our website at icanteachyouhowtomakethat.com where there's even more information and previous episodes. Okay, thanks for listening. Back to the show.
The first thing you're going to notice when you pull your mixing bowl out of the fridge the next morning is that your cannabis butter is separated into 2 parts, the liquid and the solid. We're going to keep the solid and throw away the liquid. It's no use to us anymore. Break your cannabis butter into chunks and put it in your stainless steel pot. If you've done it correctly to this stage, it should feel like brittle white chocolate. Transfer your stainless steel pot and your cannabis butter over to a low heat stove. We don't want to cook the cannabis butter right now, we're just melting it, so be very mindful of temperature. We're now going to prepare the other components of the brownie. This is where my recipe takes a beautiful turn. It's as simple as it gets with only a few ingredients and a couple of steps. The first thing you'll notice about my recipe is that it contains no additional sugar. All of the sugar comes from the Nutella. There's also no leavening agent outside of the 2 eggs. So one has to think the additional air being released into the mixture has to be coming from the ground hazelnuts in the sugary spread. I'm not sure why this recipe works, but wow does it work. Let's start by taking our 1 1/4 cups of warm Nutella and mixing it smooth with our warm cannabis butter. This is also a good time to add 1 capful or teaspoon of pure vanilla. Take your 2 room temperature eggs and crack them into your mixing bowl with your other ingredients. Whisk them in using your wire whip. Spend a few extra seconds on this step. Make sure all your ingredients are smooth and well incorporated. It'll pay off in the long run. You can thank me later. Measure off and add 1 cup all-purpose flour to your other ingredients. Be sure to mix in your flour well with your wire whip. You don't want any white flour chunks when you bite into your brownie later. But don't overmix either. Overmixing will cause the gluten strands to really develop and it would turn our brownie into a brownie bread. Not what we're looking for. Once our flour is mixed in and our mixture is smooth, we can add in our chopped pecans. Fold them in using your rubber spatula. It won't take you too long. It's kind of like the other steps. Just make sure it's mixed well. Take a short walk to your oven, preheat it to 350 degrees, on bake. Coat the inside of your brownie pan with vegetable spray. One of the benefits of this recipe is that if it's done right, it won't stick to the inside of your pan. Take your rubber spatula and scrape every last bit of the brownie batter into the cake pan. Give it a couple taps on the counter to be sure it's distributed evenly. Set it in the middle rack of your oven and set your timer for 30 minutes.
As I mentioned, you're going to want to scrape as much of the batter from the bowl into your pan with a rubber spatula as possible. It's very expensive, so we don't need to waste any. One thing I do like to do with the remnants in the bowl and on my rubber spatula is slice a little red apple. Scrape it up, pop it in your mouth. That raw brownie batter will remind you of your childhood. Until you get that significant tingle in your spine, then you'll realize this is a very adult brownie. Okay, it's been 30 minutes. Let's have a look at our baking.
The best way to describe our desired texture is no jiggling. It will always look very moist because of the high fat content, but we want to make sure the eggs have set the batter completely before we pull the pastry out of the oven. After being in the fridge for a minimum of 1 hour, we can remove this beauty from its mold. There it is, the money shot. If you did your steps correctly, it should look like this chocolatey brick of heaven, like the one above. I cut my brownie into 12 pieces. Cut yours into however many pieces you like. Keep in mind, a piece is not a portion though. Take a small bite to start and wait at least 2 hours before eating more. Don't be lured into how delicious these brownies are, stuff your face, and then complain about how slow time is moving. So there you have it, my classic Nutella pot brownies. Here are the 5 key points to perfecting this delicious confection. Number 1, warm Nutella. Using this sugary hazelnut spread is key to making a smooth, delicious brownie batter. Number 2, patience. Don't rush the decarboxylation or the extraction stage. You want to pull as much of the THC from the plant as possible. Number 3, temperature management. 220 degrees Fahrenheit is the sweet spot in the toasting stage, and a low simmer is gold for the extraction portion of the process. Number 4, mix in stages. By incorporating the canna butter with the hazelnut spread to start, it creates a base for the other ingredients to stand on. And finally, number 5, use a quality brownie pan. I use the 9-inch professional grade by KitchenAid. I've provided a link below to our Amazon store where it and all of our tools used on the show can be found. Have a look around on your way out.
So, how did it go? I'm curious. If you overmixed your brownie or pulled them out of the oven too soon, restart the video, wash your dishes, and fire them up again. It ain't that big a deal. I hope you enjoyed making these brownies as much as I enjoyed explaining them. Until next time, I'm David Husero on I Can Teach You How to Make That. Bye for now. Hi, David. Maybe you're high.